Hey, come here, I need to show you something. This tiny lever right here, the one with the numbers 1.0, 1.1, and 1.2 on it, this might be one of the coolest things I've ever seen on a piece of home gym equipment. And then you add this, or this, or this, or these, and you have a machine that may have changed the entire landscape of home gym leg days. But it's also got one potentially serious flaw that shouldn't exist on a $1,200 piece of equipment. This gorgeous hunk of metal is the GMWD LE08, a machine that touts an incredible package to make your leg days truly top tier. It features a linkage-driven lever arm system, actual 3x3 framing, and is the first of its kind to offer a load ratio adjuster. What the heck is a linkage-driven lever arm system, and why would you care about a load ratio adjuster? I'll tell you about all of that and more as we unpack my real-world testing conducted over 90 days of workouts. Is this the new gold standard for leg day machines in your home gym, or just a candy apple red slice of Swiss cheese waiting to fall apart under your workouts? I'm BJ from the Iron Clinic, and this stunt double for Optimus Prime himself is the GMWD LE08 leg extension and leg curl machine. The first few moments on the LE08 were pretty incredible. The premium nature of this machine becomes immediately apparent even during the build process. All of the pieces are distinct, nothing feels like a mystery, and it goes together the way you would expect. But let me just say this, build it where you want it to live. This thing weighs over 250 pounds, and if you ever move equipment around like I do, you know that this is a bear to move. You're absolutely gonna need a friend or two to assist in moving this, but I'd recommend actually using a pair of heavy-duty furniture dollies to move things like this. These things are incredibly useful in a home gym, and it makes it possible to move something like this around on your own. I'll put a link down in the description for these ones. Let me know what you think. Now, once it was built, I sat down and took a couple reps and immediately said to myself, holy cow, this thing is a tank. It's heavy as hell and absolutely rock solid with some of the best padding and upholstery I've ever seen. But the biggest surprise was how smooth it felt right out of the gate. The LE08 uses a linkage-driven lever arm system. Instead of one simple pivot arm, the arm moves through its controlled arc that always keeps tension consistent all the way through. And you feel that difference immediately. The machine is honestly shocking from a company known as a budget brand like GMWD. Now let's talk about the adjustability on it, because this is where I started appreciating the machine on a near daily basis. Like any leg machine, you'll fiddle with the settings the first few times you get to use it, figuring out where your body is for the right position, and dialing in where you need these two adjustable arms. But once you find your setup, the adjustments on this thing are smooth and predictable. The pop pins feel secure, not cheap, and that leg roller pad for extensions is great. It's stable and has zero flex. Compared to more budget-friendly options, it's no surprise this thing is as rock solid as it looks, just sitting there looking pretty. But for even the leg roller to not flex is definitely noteworthy. It has a total of 15 different adjustment positions between the main arm and the roller arm, and I was able to get full range of motion without maxing out the settings either, meaning that there is plenty of room for adjustability as well as a deep stretch that doesn't let go at the bottom of the movement. I actually paired it with my Hoostel pad a lot of the time to get an even deeper, safer stretch. I've got a review coming out for that soon, but using the Hoostel pad allowed me to get into a very picture-perfect position and depth, rotate that pad to get a bit deeper, and then when done, rotate it away without struggling to get out of the machine or potentially hurting your knees. Now, when you're ready for prone hamstring curls, a simple pull of the pop pin on the back of this pad and boom, the 15-degree bed opens up and gives you an incredibly supported stretch and contraction. The 15-degree V-bed sounds like a small detail in some marketing jargon, but it actually makes a huge difference. It locks your hips in, keeps you from cheating, and gives you a nice stretch. Nicer than you'd expect. You feel planted, and with the premium handles, it all comes together in a way that just feels right. Now let's talk about performance, because this is where the LE08 pulls ahead of the typical home gym stuff. Most plate-loaded extensions give you almost nothing at the bottom of the movement. Too much in the middle because they're trying to compensate for that lack of weight at the beginning, and then it just dies out at the top like a prehistoric dinosaur getting hit by a meteor. This is where that linkage-driven lever arm system really improves the overall performance. Because of this linkage, the roller is able to move the lever arm smoothly and consistently through the whole range of motion, whether performing leg extensions or leg curls. Even that top third of movement has meaningful tension, which is almost unheard of for plate-loaded designs like this. The motion is smooth, stable, and predictable. I never fell out of position, never felt the machine rocking, and I never felt like I was fighting the equipment instead of training. This allowed me to focus, hone in, and achieve the leg day destruction that I desired. All of this is true for hamstring curls too. As we said, that 15-degree bed really adds another dimension by holding your hips down to get that incredible contraction, and really doesn't let you get any momentum through that movement. Now, it's not all sunshine and daisies. The incredible padding has a beautiful texture and firmness, but the texture is also a bit of a cause for concern. More on that a bit later. But first, let's talk about the other method of adjustability on this machine, the Load Ratio Selector. The Load Ratio Selector is a feature I ended up using way more than I thought I would. Basically, it lets you increase or decrease the weight of this by around 10 to 20% without changing plates, and I use this nearly every workout. The default for this back setting is a 1.0, meaning that the felt weight is 1-to-1, or what you loaded it with. Now, whether or not this is actually 1-to-1 and dead on with that weight is debatable, but also it's not really that important.
Hey, Editor BJ here. I just wanted to pop in really quick and show you this clip that I took with the pulley scale that I have. Now, you're gonna have to forgive the glare and the angle. It's really tough to film this. Also note that I have this set in kilograms. So as you can see here, we're showing about 11, 12, 13 kg whenever I'm pulling on this thing, and it's staying really consistent. Now, what's important to note is that it's always very difficult to perform this test. It's difficult to get the exact same kind of environment, conditions, etc., but I do my best to pull on it with the same amount of weight, in the same motions, and in the same movement planes. Here, I am pulling on the leg extension, as if you were actually doing a leg extension with only a single 25-pound plate on the weight horn. This is on the 1.0 weight setting, and I'm showing you this clip because I did want to clarify, I thought it was very important to clarify that this is as close to 1-to-1 ratio as I think we're going to get. Again, testing conditions can vary greatly, but I hope this gives you a glimpse into just how consistent the weight curve can be throughout the plane of motion for this. It's pretty incredible. It is spot on, and the weight itself really does not vary by much at all throughout the entire range of motion that you're going through. Okay, back to the review.
What is important is that if you need to add a little bit more weight, say 10%, you bump it up to the 1.1 setting, or the 1.2 setting if you need 20% more. This is incredible for both pyramiding up as well as down when you're trying to squeeze out every single last drop of performance in your final sets. You can easily find RPE 10 with this method without having to constantly change out weights. It's extremely useful and actually pretty darn close to that 10 and 20% bump. But it's not perfect. It can be tough to adjust this while you're seated, especially with heavier plates. If your plates have handholds like mine though, I did find that you can grab them and kind of tilt it and move it forward or back and it just fits right back in, but it gets difficult as that load rises. And during prone curls, it's basically impossible to adjust without getting out of position. When writing this review, I actually struggled to come up with more complaints than this one, because in all of my use, I find only one notable flaw. The roller pad doesn't rotate. Now, this doesn't seem that crazy. Maybe you've never even thought about whether your roller pad is rotating as you move through that range of motion. But because the pad has a grippy texture like the rest of the upholstery, it does not rotate during use. It will drag against your skin and feels like a constant rug burn being applied to the bottom of your legs. It was so much at times that I literally had to stop my set simply because of this. It wasn't really a problem on leg extensions, but on leg curls, it was literally unbearable sometimes. I actually did end up taking that roller off at one point to see if I could grease it or loosen it or something, but no, it is solid foam over a fixed core. It's not going to spin unless I somehow manage to trim some of that foam off in the core. I did manage to find some workarounds that helped in the interim, like long socks or sweatpants, and actually using the Hoosla pad provided a perfect surface that rotated with me during the movement. But I did start to notice that as I dialed in my settings over the first 2 or 3 weeks of use, the problem became less noticeable. Now, was this because my body subconsciously figured out how to work around this and compensate for it? Or because I finally dialed in the position of the leg roller? It's hard to say, but it did lessen over time. Still, if GMWD adds a rotating roller with bearings, this thing becomes nearly flawless, and I honestly think this needs to be addressed, as it could be a deal breaker for a lot of people, and I don't think I'm being nitpicky here. Now, let's talk about the build quality here. Even at first look, you can see the premium nature of this machine. I mean, it looks gorgeous. I really hope we see more companies doing paints like this and not the all too common flat black or flat red or that crazy yellow that most gym equipment favors. The frame is still as rock solid as it was on day one, and the sheer weight of it keeps it locked in place on the floor. Unlike budget machines where you really need to weigh them down with some extra weights on the post they normally give you, you don't need it here. The weight of the machine itself keeps it in spot. It is always nice though to have a weight horn for ease of access during your workouts. Nothing's loosened, nothing's rubbing weird, and even the lever linkage system is just as smooth now as the day I built it. No greasing, no maintenance required. Now, let's not pretend that $1,200 is a small amount of money, but still, this machine is punching way above its weight class and winning every single round. Speaking of punching above its weight class, let's talk about how this thing stacks up against the alternatives, because a lot of you watching are probably thinking, okay, BJ, but what about this machine, or that setup, or the attachment that I already own? Well, let's start with the obvious one, the bench attachments. You know the ones I'm talking about. The little leg rollers that slide under your bench or bolt onto the front. And listen, those do work. They are not useless, and there is a reason that they are so prolific. They're cheap and thus accessible, and they're easy to work with the items that already exist in your gym. But every single one that I've used has had the same problem. The strength curve feels like someone just guessed at it. You get nothing at the bottom and way too much tension in the middle. And then right when you want tension the most, near lockout, it just gives up. If you've ever used a commercial piece of equipment, its flaws become very obvious very quickly. And thus, it's the kind of thing you use and you go, okay, technically this checks the box, but I'm not exactly excited to train on it. Switching from one of those to the LE08 honestly feels like going from your grandpa's 47-year-old lawn chair to a Herman Miller. Both hold your body up, but only one of them feels like it was actually designed to support you for life. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, we've got the newer designs like the Lionscool LV4 and the Tawaret that Niccolo and GMD teamed up on. These are really cool machines. They use cams and cables to fix a lot of the old school lever arm problems, and honestly, they're pushing the market forward in a very exciting way. The thing is, even though they're technically better in some ways, they don't feel quite the same as the LE08. The LE08 just has this heavier, meatier, more planted feel. You sit down and instantly get the commercial vibe. And if you like that feeling of moving a big, solid chunk of metal through a controlled arc, well, the LE08 nails that. The Lionscool V4 and that Tawaret feel more modern, more engineered, and the weight curve feels just as good as the LE08. But the LE08 feels much more planted and secure. Feels like a real machine. And then of course we can't forget that there's things like the Freak Athlete Hyper Pro with its leg developer. And look, this thing is a monster in terms of versatility. If you're trying to squeeze out every single drop of value of your space, the Hyper Pro is one of those tools that you can buy and it will do everything for you. It even folds up to store it in a nice small spot. You can literally hide it in a corner. It's like the Swiss Army knife that somehow also humbles you when you try to do a Nordic curl for the 10th time. But if your question is which one gives the best pure leg extension and pure leg curl experience, well, something like the LE08 wins that one all day. It's the difference between a Swiss Army knife and a scalpel. If the Hyper Pro is a Swiss Army knife, the LE08 is a scalpel. One can do literally everything, and the other does one thing incredibly well. So all of this really comes down to what you value. If you want the best dedicated feel, the LE08 I think may be that. If you want versatility and a compact footprint, something like the Hyper Pro can give you most of that stuff. And if you just want something in the middle, well, you've got a couple different options out there. With all of that said, as a whole, the home gym world is changing. You've got companies like Dialed Motion coming in 2026 with their crazy engineering. You've got these cable and cam-based setups from Lionscool, GMWD, Miccolo, and RitFit getting better and smarter every day. And now you've got this linkage-based lever system entering the arena. Look, 10 years ago, you really only had two options. You had a bench with an integrated leg extension that was as rickety as a 3-story condo during a hurricane, or you had to spend your college fund to get something so big that it would literally become a part of your house for the rest of history. But now, we've actually got choices, real choices, and the LE08 is one of the machines that represents that next step in this evolution. It feels like something that belongs in the conversation with much more expensive equipment. And the LE08 isn't just good for the price. It pushes the entire middle tier forward. And I think we're going to look back in a few years and realize that this was one of those early pieces that made people raise their expectations. Now, as far as improvements go, I'd love just a few things. First and foremost, that leg roller. Please, GMWD, I am begging you, give it some rotation. Keep that firm and textured upholstery because it is amazing, but it needs to rotate just a little bit when under load. Second, I would just love it if this back pad here had a little bit more adjustability. It goes crazy deep and crazy far forward, but I would really love if you could tilt it back a bit to even get more quad activation when doing leg extensions. But this is me being really nitpicky and trying to get as optimized as possible with this machine. Still though, I think it would be possible on this. The last thing though I think would really elevate this, A seated leg curl attachment like we see on many budget options would be divine. Currently, there just are no good options at the same quality and build as this LE08 that cost under $2,500 that allow for both a seated leg extension and a seated leg curl. They all offer seated extensions and prone curls. If there was a way to add a small post that would hold your knees down and allow you to do those seated curls like this, I think we'd have a machine that would become impossible to topple from the rankings. Is this functionally possible? I don't know, but you keyboard engineers can let me know down in the comments, okay? All right, so let's talk about who this machine is actually for, because not every piece of equipment is meant for every type of lifter. And honestly, this is the part of the review that I wish more people paid attention to before buying anything. First of all, this is perfect for home gym owners who want commercial quality. If you're someone who values that heavy, stable, confidence-inspiring feel that you get from real gym equipment, and you want that experience at home without spending $5 or $6 grand, this machine hits that sweet spot beautifully. Like we've said, it's sturdy, it's smooth, it feels intentional. It doesn't wobble or complain when you train hard, and it just does its job in the most advanced way possible. If you train by yourself, especially on leg days, and you still want to hit failure safely, this is a huge upgrade. You don't have to worry about bailing out of a squat or doing some weird half rep on an RDL because your grip gave out. Leg machines like this let you be aggressive without being stupid, and the LE08 handles that role extremely well. Now, this one might be a wild card here, but if you run a small personal training studio or you work with clients in a semi-private setting, this machine absolutely makes sense for you. It's durable, it looks good, and it fits a wide range of heights, and it really has this feeling when you sit down of it of, whoa, this is legit. It gives off a very professional vibe without that commercial club price tag and has a great warranty to back it too. 2 years on parts and a lifetime frame warranty. And I can tell you that GMWD's customer service is incredibly responsive and agile. Lastly, if you're looking for that clean, consistent tension and that commercial vibe, but you're not ready to go drop $4,000 on a Prime Fitness combo machine, the LE08 gives you a big chunk of that experience for a literal fraction of the price. And that's not an exaggeration. It is genuinely impressive how close this gets to the top tier equipment for the price tag that it has. So, after 3 full months with the GMWD LE08, here's where I've landed. This machine, it is shockingly good. Not good for the price tag, not good for a home gym, just good. Every single time I used it, it delivered exactly what I wanted it to do. The tension is there, the movement is smooth, and the frame feels like it could literally survive a meteor impact. And even after pushing this thing to RPE 9 and RPE 10 over and over, nothing loosened up, nothing rattled, nothing felt like it was breaking down. It has that really satisfying feeling where you sit down, you take a rep, and your brain goes, yeah, this is how it's supposed to feel. Is it perfect? No, but seriously, what is? The roller pad absolutely needs to be addressed. It has to rotate. That's the one thing that I think legitimately held it back. And I really do think GMWD could make another version of this that would borderline dominate the entire sub $1,500 category. But even with that flaw, even with that little annoyance, the LE08 still ends up being the best dedicated leg extension and leg curl combo that I have used in this price range. And it's not even a close race. What really stands out is that it doesn't feel like a compromise. So many home gym machines just have that one thing that you just tolerate. This one has one annoyance that seemed to fade in my experience. And then there's a whole list of things that it does incredibly well. It's stable, it's consistent, it fits a wide range of lifters, it feels commercial even without the commercial price tag, and it gives you the ability to reliably train quads and hamstrings in a way that feels safe, heavy, and satisfying. For a leg day machine, this is the machine I would recommend. This is the machine I would pick again. I want to thank GMWD for sending this over and trusting me to put it through the paces for this review. It's been an awesome experience, and I can't wait to see what GMWD does with the rest of their machines following this incredible creation. If you end up wanting to grab one for yourself or you just want to read more, I'll have all those links down in the description. And I'll put some of the accessories that I mentioned down in the description too. Remember that at checkout, using code IRONCLINIC will save you about $50 and help support the channel. I really appreciate that support. And hey, if you made it this far, a like, a comment, even a sub would go so far and cost you nothing. I hope to see you back here again. Thanks again for being here, everyone. Keep being great, keep pushing forward, and keep getting better every day.